Welcome to the Keiser Report. I'm Max Keiser. The Bitcoin barbarians are at the gate, nipping at the feet of the command and control dollar reservists, taunting the bread and circus pushing political clown tyrants, mocking the corrupt regulators and party officials who hate any payment system, which they can't chop up like a line of coke, like a credit card, and despise any currency through which they can't snort that line of coke. Yes, the Bitcoin barbarians are here, and the barbarous relic-loving hordes are letting them through the gates because all agree that Caesar, or whoever is Obama, is a freaking schmuck. Stacy?
Yes, the empire is crumbling and is lashing out, and people are sick of it. People are sick of being taxed to death. They're sick of being spied on. They're sick of being stolen from by Caesar, who's desperate and hungry and angry that he's losing his power. He's an old man, and he's lashing out at everybody. And Bitcoin is rising dramatically as people find a way to live outside of that system. But we're going to start with that crumbling empire of Caesar's. Tweet from James McIntosh. He says, CIA is building database from Western Union and others on money transfers all over the world. No privacy left.
Yeah, there's a direct correlation between the stunning revelations and all of the ongoing machinations of the police state and the rise of Bitcoin. And as you point out, for similar reasons, back in the Roman era, you had the barbarians who did not really conquer. They were let in by the peasants who were tired of what was happening in Rome. People around the world are tired of the NSA, the CIA, the GCHQ in the UK. They're letting Bitcoin happen. They want it to happen because they want to euthanize these bankers, and they want to euthanize the system. And Bitcoin is the euthanizing agent.
And ironically, you know, as we've covered before, the NSA is doing the spying mostly for corporate espionage. And you can see this because every new revelation, it's always either they're spying on some major corporation or some major leader. You never catch them spying on Osama bin Laden or his family or some other fake, terrorist. So let's look at the consequences of this. NSA spying crushes U.S. tech companies in emerging markets. Quote, an industry phenomenon, says Cisco's Chambers. So this is Wolf Richter, and he's looking at some of these statements about the dramatic declines from like the likes of IBM and now Cisco in the emerging world, and they are terrified to use the word NSA. So Cisco CEO John Chambers had a euphemism for it during the first quarter earnings call. The, quote, challenging political dynamics in that country being China. It was in between the lines everywhere, but never once did Chambers or anyone else on his team mouth the acronym NSA.
See, the mistake that Obama and Bush and Clinton made is that they didn't give the American people a cut of the crimes that they were committing. They just they got greedy. If the American people had been benefiting in some way from the global reign of financial terrorism that Obama is involved with, and Bush was involved with, and Clinton was involved with, they might not be so happy to embrace something like Bitcoin, which gives the big FU to everybody who's at the NSA, the CIA, and all its various spy agencies. And there are equivocators who say, well, everyone is spying, or you've got nothing to fear if you've got nothing to hide. The Bitcoin community is saying, hey, you know what? We're just going to buy Bitcoin until every single banker in the world's euthanized and on the ground gasping for air. And then we're going to stamp on their throat and dance a jig on their dead corpse. That's what it's all about.
Well, let's look at Cisco's earnings again and the dramatic decline in their emerging markets, the worst being Russia for them. So our top 5 emerging markets declined 21%. Said the CEO, with Brazil down 25%, Mexico down 18%, India down 18%, China down 18%, and Russia down 30%.
Well, Cisco, very famously was the poster child of the dot-com boom and bust of the late 90s, early 2000, 2001 period. It was at one point the highest capitalized company in the world. And then, of course, their routers, which are the backbone of the internet, are infected with NSA spying. If any country in the world wants to stop spying, you need to stop doing business with Cisco immediately. And IBM, famously, is also getting crushed by revelations that they're in bed with the NSA and various spying. And it's for corporate espionage. It's for taking, you know, the U.S. never accuses China of manipulating the currency anymore. Remember, last year they used to say, oh, China's a currency manipulator. Remember Tim Geithner, before he picked up a job, working for Warburg Pincus, you know, basically committing acts of financial terrorism, but in the private sector now? So they don't talk about China being a currency manipulator anymore. It's been revealed that Cisco, IBM, Oracle, all these companies, Google, Facebook are in China leeching data from the poor peasants there and using it to their advantage to ingratiate themselves.
Well, NSA is the acronym which dare not speak its name, and he came the closest, the CEO of Cisco Chambers. He said the closest they came to was when he mentioned China. China is a little bit unique to Cisco, because some of the issues going on, which you are all aware of. He said during the earnings call on August 14th, once again refusing to utter NSA.
Well, NSA has become the new N-word.
Yeah.
You know, on global markets around the world, if you mention the N-word, NSA, it's like a turd in the punch bowl. You know, you've really killed the buzz of that conversation. You're like, wow, NSA? Well, that gives me an uncomfortable feeling, like, ew. Yeah, that's the new N-word, buddy.
So this whole mentality of spying is also corporate espionage, but also to control those few peasants with any single pennies left in our own economies. So let's look at what's happening in France. French automaker Renault can cut off your car battery if you don't make payments on time. French automaker Renault is using its battery leasing scheme to prevent non-paying customers from charging their electric cars. Big Brother is watching, ... your battery. It's called bricking, and they lease this yeah, exactly. In order to keep the price down, they lease the battery along with their Zoe ZE electric car. But now, in the small print of your contract, it actually says it can just turn off the battery.
Right, so from remote location, the Peugeot auto manufacturing company,
Renault,
which is tied in with, of course, the state and the state spying authority. We know that the NSA is spying in France, too, and they're spying on people. They're hooked in with the credit card companies and the credit facilitators and the banks. If you miss a payment, they turn your battery off, and you're cruising down the highway, and boom! Zut alors! Je suis arrêté! Pourquoi? À cause de la crédit de banque me fluqué jusqu'à mon flanc! C'est vrai! It's scandal! I am shocked! I am shocked! Je suis shocked!
Well, in the service contract, in the fine print, it is revealed that Renault has the right to prevent charging of the Zoe ZE at the end of the battery rental contract. It was also revealed that Renault can do this in the case of non-payment on the car or battery as well, effectively making your vehicle worthless.
Putain, Zoé! Zoé, putain! C'est vrai! C'est automobile, à ce moment, c'est bam, c'est bouffe, c'est baf, ne marche pas. Et pourquoi? Parce que les banques sont le terrorisme. C'est vrai. Et je suis, c'est une crise existentielle. Mon foi, mon foi, mon foi. You see, that's the thing in France. If you ever have a problem, just tell somebody you have a crisis with your liver. And they'll help you. That's it. That's the only way you can get any help. J'ai une crise de foie. Stop everything! This man's got a liver crisis! Of course, you got to be careful they don't harvest your liver and serve it on a plate.
Well, as you mentioned at the top of the show, the Bitcoin barbarians are at the gate, and they are rejecting the Americans who are not willing to accept the barbarians of Bitcoin yet. The U.S. has already ceded dominance in Bitcoin trading. So currently the top 4 Bitcoin exchanges by volume are located outside of the US, with the largest being in China, and less than 2% of worldwide Bitcoin trading and real-time market making occurs within the US jurisdiction. That's because it's not illegal to trade or sell Bitcoin, but people are afraid. They're afraid of Caesar and how he will react to this challenge to his authority.
Well, Bitcoin is a Bitcoin race. It's a global Bitcoin race. Remember the space race, the late 1960s? Russia had Sputnik, which incidentally is a new show on RT. You might want to check it out with George Galloway and his wife, Gayatri. Sputnik, only on RT. But getting back to what I was saying. So Russia had the Sputnik, which went out there, beep, 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 beep. It became the space race. And then everyone in the U.S. became, oh, zut alors, we're going to lose the space race. So then John F. Kennedy, before his head got blown off, said, you know what, we're going to put a man on the moon. And then they won the space race. But now we've got a new race. It's called the Bitcoin race. And who's winning this race? Looks like Russia. China. They're winning the Bitcoin race. America's got their thumb up their swing, wondering, what is a Bitcoin? And the answer is, it's the future. And if you don't get with it, you're going to be left cuckoo in the past.
The scary thing is how you see this sort of totalitarianism, which is a new form in that it's not like overly violent. People just comply for fear of the Caesar, of the power. Because as he points out, of course, there isn't a ban on Bitcoin in the US, but there doesn't have to be an outright ban when there is a chilling effect on banking that translates into an unwillingness for banks and credit unions to engage with Bitcoin-related companies. So it's the banks themselves, but they're also complicit in that they don't want the innovation to happen that might make them unnecessary. Given the labyrinth and ambiguity of state-by-state compliance issues, financial institutions conclude that it's far safer and easier to ignore Bitcoin-related opportunities. This is the largest single barrier to payments innovation in the U.S.
Right, because the cost of sending, let's say, $15 million from point A to point B can be as much as $100,000, whereas using Bitcoin, it might cost 6 cents. So that's a huge cut into the banking monopoly, and they have a monopoly on money transfers. The Forex market, the foreign exchange market, is a $5 trillion a day business, and not only is it manipulated by these big banks, but they charge enormous fees on top of the manipulations. So here comes Bitcoin. I can move any amount of money anywhere in the world for pennies, versus $100,000, $200,000 for the same transaction from some corrupt bank that's plugged into the NSA, that's raping me with fees, that's spying on me, that's selling me mortgage products that are concatenated from pig slop and, resold on a mortgage market, conducted by kleptocrats, and then repackaged and securitized and fortified and remortgaged and rehypothecated, and looks like something that came out of the back end of a pig over there at the No Goodnick farm. Yeah, that's what they're selling over there. Lloyd Blankfeiner's No Goodnick farm. He's got plenty of pig slop he's trying to sell. It's all going to be destroyed with the euthanizing effect of Bitcoin. Ain't going to work on Lloyd Blankfeiner pig farm no more. Yes, you are, because all that pig is into rehypothecated security that is securitized, sold on Wall Street, nothing but worthless junk that is somehow making everybody rich, except those who are actually doing a job. Stacy Herbert, we got to go.
Thanks, Max. Empire is crumbling and is lashing out, and people are sick of it. People are sick of being taxed to death. They're sick of being spied on. They're sick of being stolen from by Caesar, who's desperate and hungry and angry that he's losing his power. He's an old man, and he's lashing out at everybody. And Bitcoin is rising dramatically as people find a way to live outside of that system. But we're going to start with that crumbling empire of Caesar's. Tweet
any payment system which they can't chop up like a line of coke, like a credit card, and despise any currency through which they can't snort that line of coke. Yes, the Bitcoin barbarians are here, and the barbarous relic-loving hordes are letting them through the gates, because all agree that Caesar, or whoever is Obama, is a freaking schmuck. Stacy?
Yes, the empire from James McIntosh. He says CIA is building database from Western Union and others on money transfers all over the world. No privacy left.
Yeah, there's a direct correlation between the stunning revelations and all of the ongoing machinations of the police state and the rise of Bitcoin. And as you point out, for similar reasons. Back in the Roman era, you had the barbarians who did not really conquer. They were Welcome to the Keiser Report. I'm Max Keiser. The Bitcoin barbarians are at the gate, nipping at the feet of the command and control dollar reservists, taunting the bread and circus pushing political clown tyrants, mocking the corrupt regulators and party officials who were let in by the peasants who were tired of what was happening in Rome. People around the world are tired of the NSA, the CIA, the GCHQ in the UK. They're letting Bitcoin happen. They want it to happen because they want to euthanize these bankers, and they want to euthanize the system. And Bitcoin is the euthanizing agent.
And ironically, as we've covered before, the NSA is doing the spying mostly for corporate espionage.